What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Today, I want to talk about two big things in the sport of boxing. One, boxing as a business, and two, hypocritical fans. So let's get right into it with a quote from Sergio Martinez. Now, Sergio Martinez is coming off a huge win against Chavez Jr. Chavez Jr. is the younger, stronger, bigger fighter who he beat in a 12-round decision convincingly. And here's what he had to say regarding a Mayweather fight. When I grab you, I will make your bones crack like I did to Chavez. I promised Chavez that I was going to crack all of his bones, and I did. Floyd, get ready because I'm going to find you in 2013. Between now and November of 2013, I promise to find you. He is living in a cloud, but when he gets my message, he is going to fall. With Pacquiao, it is impossible. There's a huge weight difference because he is very small, and the maximum that he will weigh before a fight is 143 or 145 pounds, and the least amount of weight that I can give is 154. So that's coming from Sergio Martinez regarding Floyd Mayweather and possibly Pacquiao. He's saying that won't work. It's impossible. Now, first thing I want to start off with is talk about boxing as a business. And I'm not even vouching for boxing because there's a lot of business decisions that they make that I don't necessarily support. In a perfect world, in an ideal world, we see all the fights we want to see. In the boxing world, that's not always what happens. You're lucky if you get to see an action-packed fight that you've been wanting to see, like maybe like a Brandon Rios versus Mike Alvarado or something like that, or finally Chavez Jr. and Sergio Martinez. But it was a process, and people don't realize this is a business, so they make business decisions. Why do you think Josecito Lopez was just facing Canelo? It's because it's business, not because they had a great idea that Josecito could beat Canelo. It's just because he had garnered new fans and he had got a buzz from breaking Victor Ortiz's jaw. So whether you like it or not, that's the state of boxing and that's where it's at. Now, as far as Sergio Martinez's comments, I feel a lot of you guys in your comments on YouTube and whatnot, you get all hyped like, oh, Sergio's calling Floyd out, Floyd's ducking, and you don't support it with any fact. Like, one, Sergio Martinez is nursing his injuries. He tore some ligaments in his knee, and he broke his left hand from the Chavez Jr. fight. And he's already talking about his next fight. Reason being, again, boxing is a business. Sergio Martinez, this is his job. So, as a result, he's trying to do whatever he can to keep his career relevant and to keep getting big paydays. And for Sergio Martinez, as many of you know, he's 37. That's not old, but in the world of boxing, that's older. And most people don't have a lucrative career much beyond their mid 30s. And you can argue there's some people, Manuel Marquez, he's Juan Manuel Marquez, that is. He's 38 years old. Bernard Hopkins stayed around the sport for a while, but these are exceptions. I'm talking about by and large. For the most part, when you see people older in the sport, a lot of times it's they're just shells of their former self. Like look at I don't even know how old he is, but Kermit Cintron. I know he's been fighting for a while, but look at Kermit Cintron or Roy Jones Jr. I mean, the Roy Jones Jr. that we've seen recently is not the prime Roy Jones Jr. that I grew up on as a kid. He takes punches different. He's not as fast, and he's still continuing to fight at, I think he's 42. So that is what it is. Sergio Martinez, again, he's never really had the limelight, and that's not taking anything away from his skill or talent level, but it's a fact. I mean, you look at HBO, their poster boys have been people like Amir Khan, Pacquiao. They have no choice but to really like Floyd or support him because of who he is in the sport. But Sergio Martinez never really got that love. Like even when you see those HBO promotions, I see Adrian Broner promotions with more like emphasis that I feel has been put on the trailers to make the promo videos for those than I have with Sergio Martinez. So I mean, I can't knock the dude. Sergio Martinez, he wants those big paydays. and he's trying to land that. And that's basically what this is. He's 37, and he's trying to cash out. He wants to get those big paydays, and I don't even think he's fought pay-per-view before. I don't think any of his fights were pay-per-view events except for the Chavez Jr. fight. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. So to have a pay-per-view fight that actually did good, even though it was competing with the Canelo fight, so it could have even done better had they not had Canelo fighting on the same exact night. He got a lot more attention than he's probably received in the past because his other fights have been on HBO and whatnot. So who wants to go back? Like, if you're from the hood and somehow you become rich, do you want to go back to impoverished living conditions and things like that? No, you don't. So Sergio Martinez, he's trying to make a big fight. He's openly stated that. But this is the problem I have when I read these comments and everyone's like, Floyd's ducking. One, I feel like you guys are hypocritical. You guys take the term ducking and take it to a whole new level and overuse it and abuse that term. Everybody's ducking. So first things first, let's get into ducking. Just because a fighter calls you out and the fight is not made, that doesn't mean you're ducking. And again, this goes back to boxing being a business. It's a business. So there's a lot of fights that we want to see, but they don't make business sense. So we probably won't see them. And I think a lot of fans or casual fans, they use their dislike for a fighter as fuel to state things like label him as a ducker. You don't like Mayweather, so you're like, oh, he's ducking. But if you look at it, this happens all the time in boxing. Canelo Alvarez recently, who called him out? Arislandi Lara and K9 Bundridge. K9 did it after he beat Corey Spinks on national TV, and Canelo hasn't fought them. So is Canelo afraid of him, or is he ducking? Not necessarily. I think maybe his handlers or Golden Boy might be afraid, not necessarily of K9, but Arislandi Lara has a tricky style, and they don't want to blemish his record. I'm not saying he can't win or he won't beat him, but I'm just saying it's all business, and that's pretty much what it is. Just because someone calls you out doesn't mean that you're afraid of them. And you guys a lot of times are one-sided, and again, because you dislike a fighter, you'll use that as a rationale as to why they're ducking. And if you honestly think about it, Mayweather's at the top of the food chain. He's respected in most people's top 3 pound for pound list. And if he's not in your top 3 pound for pound list, I'd be real curious to see who you have. Because I would definitely have Andre Ward up there, Sergio Martinez, and Floyd Mayweather. So if he's not in your top 3, I don't really know who you would put as your 3. But anyway, he's at the top. He makes the most money, highest paid athlete. So, of course, people are going to call him out. It's nothing new. If you think about it, who hasn't called Mayweather out in recent memory? Robert Guerrero, Canelo, Sergio Martinez, Pacquiao, Amir Khan. They all called him out. You know why? It's because he's at the top of the food chain. They desire what he has. And they know that if they beat him, if they are able to beat him, then that does wonders for their career, and their career will skyrocket. But don't let your hatred or dislike for one fighter fuel ignorant ass comments. Like, this happens all the time in boxing. Tyson Fury called out David Haye. David Haye just had an amazing knockout against Chisora, and Tyson Fury called him out. David Haye openly dismissed a fight with Tyson Fury. He basically said, I'm not interested. And he told him to fight somebody else, and he said, I'm not interested unless your name's Klitschko. Speaking of Klitschko, James Toney, he's on YouTube, all over YouTube. There's tons of videos where he's calling out the Klitschkos, talking shit. He's like, the Klitschko don't want to fight me. They know they don't want to fight me. The Klitschko, excuse me, I mean the bitch clothes, tell them to put his skirt up. They don't want to fight. Like, and he's going in on the Klitschkos, but because the Klitschkos haven't fought him, that match hasn't been made. Does that mean the Klitschkos are afraid or they're ducking? Like I said, there's a lot that goes on behind closed doors that you guys really don't understand in the sport of boxing, and it's a lot of politics. It's not always the issue if somebody's afraid, and I feel like you guys say these things. Like, I heard back in the day Floyd Mayweather was afraid of Cotto, and he was ducking Cotto. I mean, what's the proof? Like, because they didn't fight at that time when Cotto was undefeated, so he was ducking him? That doesn't necessarily mean he was ducking. They were both undefeated. They both could have took a loss just like Cotto eventually took a loss from Mayweather. So you never know what the outcome would have been if they would have fight. It's all a big what if. It's all speculation, and you never know. Cotto's camp might have been saying, "Hey, we don't really want a Mayweather fight because we don't want to blemish Cotto's record." You never know. So a lot of you guys get up here on the internet and get bold, and maybe you have some liquid courage and you drink and get on YouTube and start typing a bunch of like asinine comments. But it's where's the facts? When did Miguel Cotto and his camp proposition Floyd Mayweather and they said, no, we're not fighting you, we reject it, and that kind of thing. So of course people are going to call you out, especially when you have a name for yourself, when you've already established that. And perfect example, I'm a huge movie buff. I love movies. One particular genre of movies that I like are crime drama, gangster flicks, you know what I mean, like Casinos, New Jack City, Goodfellas, Narc, you know what I mean, those type of movies. And if you watch movies like that, like Goodfellas, a Casino or whatever, you see mob bosses and they're on top. They pretty much run the city, they call the shots, and then you get this young hungry mobster who wants everything that they have. So what do? They knock off the mob boss and now they're that dude. They're in a position of power and they've earned their stripes because they capped off somebody who was previously running the show. And that's no different from boxing. That's exactly what you see in boxing. You see guys like Mayweather, Pacquiao, they've already established themselves as pay-per-view draws and they can make money. Now people want to fight them. Of course you want to fight the best. You want to challenge yourself. And boxing is a competitive sport. So you guys get too hyped over people calling out people. And you get to that, oh, he's ducking. And here's another example. Let's say there's a popular girl that goes to your school and she has long hair, a pretty smile, she has a fat ass, and several guys invite her to prom and she chooses not to go to prom with them. Are you going to say she's ducking Rodney, she's ducking Kevin? No, you're not. If it doesn't make sense, if she's not interested in that particular person at the time, then it doesn't happen. She's obviously going to choose whoever she feels is best for that moment, the person with equal popularity, equal good looks, or whatever the situation or criteria is. But that doesn't mean she's ducking or afraid. Like, come on, like, why would you become a professional boxer if you're afraid or you're a skittish type person? You know what I mean? That's the wrong career path. Why wouldn't you work at a golf course or something if you don't like hand-to-hand combat or confrontation? And then as far as calling out people, most of these fighters, other than Mayweather, and there's probably a select other few, most of them aren't their own bosses though. So they can get on interviews and say whatever they want. They can get on YouTube videos and say whatever they want. They can get on a video and call George Foreman out of retirement. Say, George Foreman, I want you right now. Stop making grills. Meet me in the ring on December 15th and we can meet up in the middle and scrap. Like, and guess what? It doesn't matter because they don't call their own shots. It doesn't matter who they desire to fight. Their promoters or their handlers, if the fight is not made, it's not made. That's why when you see videos of like trainers being interviewed by like Ellie Seckbach, he does interviews with Robert Garcia at his gym, and Seckbach will give all these potential matchups, like what do you think about Brandon Rios versus Broner? Almost always Robert Garcia has the same response. It's almost always, he might give his opinion on who he feels or like, fuck yeah, that's a good match, but almost always he gives like the same generic response. He's like, yeah, it's really up to the promoters and management and whoever they bring us. Cameron Duncan, and it's always that. His response is almost always that. Cameron Duncan, whoever they bring us. And most fighters on a lower scale who haven't established themselves as megastars aren't in a position to the point where they call all the shots. They're their own bosses. They would like to be, but as of right now in their careers, most of them aren't in the position where they are. And for the most part, a lot of them just sign on the dotted line. They have a date, and they may be given like a few options as like, oh, here's 3 guys who you want to fight, and then they might pick from that. But most people don't have the luxury of just saying, I want that person, that's who I'm fighting. Make an offer. I know I'll make an offer that they can't refuse, and that kind of thing. So as far as Sergio Martinez and Floyd Mayweather, it could be a fight. It could be a good fight. But like I said, a lot of you guys get too hyped with the, oh, he called him out and he didn't do it. Like, he didn't do nothing. He's scared. He's ducking. Like, come on. And if you really think about it, the biggest advantage that Sergio Martinez would have over Floyd Mayweather, the biggest, would be his size. Because I don't think anyone can dispute Mayweather's not a full-fledged 154 pounder. His frame is not. He's fought there twice against Cotto and De La Hoya, but he's not a full-fledged 154 pounder. Look at Mayweather's frame compared to like Kirkland, Canelo, Canine Bundridge. It's not the same at all. So you got Sergio Martinez who's calling out a smaller guy, and this is the hypocrisy, calling out a smaller guy trying to earn his payday. And if the fight doesn't happen, you're like, oh, Mayweather's ducking because he's not fighting someone who fights divisions up from him and is typically considered a heavier person, even though Sergio used to fight at smaller divisions. But then this is where the hypocrisy comes in. Sergio Martinez, they've been talking about possibly Andre Ward. And then Andre Ward, I see in the comments the same users are putting Andre Ward's too big for Sergio. So Andre Ward's too big for Sergio, but Mayweather's not too small for Sergio. So it's like, come on, you got to be consistent with your thoughts. You can't have someone else calling someone out from a higher division to a lower division, picking on a smaller guy, and then there's another situation of that, and you're okay with that. You know what I'm saying? Mayweather's a ducker, and he's a coward if he doesn't fight Sergio Martinez, but Canelo just faced a guy who's typically fighting at 140 pounds, which is Josecito Lopez. So whatever it is, just be consistent with your thoughts. And another thing, Sergio Martinez versus Gennady Golovkin. Sergio's promoter, Lou Diabella, I posted a video on this, so check that on my channel. But the topic came up of a potential matchup with Martinez and Golovkin, and his promoter pretty much shitted on the whole idea. He was like, no, what the fuck for? Why would we do that? Where's the money? He doesn't have a fan base. There's no profit in that. And that's someone who fights in the same division who looks like they're definitely a threat to Sergio Martinez. Probably more so than Chavez Jr. because Chavez Jr. is not necessarily a one-punch KO person. He's a cumulative puncher, and he works the body, and then he'll wear you down and get you out of there with his pressure fighting style. But this Golovkin dude, from what I've seen, looks like he has more technique, and it looks like he has one-punch knockout power potentially. So that looks like it could be a hell of a match. Do I think he's earned it, Golovkin? No, but at the same time, it could be a good match. So just stop with the so-and-so scared, because if Mayweather's scared of Sergio, then why is Sergio not fighting Golovkin? You know what I mean? So that's the types of things that I read all the time, and that's the hypocrisy in the sport. So that pretty much sums everything up. Let me know what you guys think. Subscribe, comment. As far as a Mayweather and Martinez fight, I would definitely watch it. It could be exciting. Again, Martinez's biggest advantage would be his size because he's bigger. And you also have to keep in mind, because some people are reading, oh, Mayweather will get destroyed by Sergio Martinez. Just know that if you're a boxing fan, you'll realize that Sergio Martinez, styles makes fights. So when he fought Chavez Jr., he's not going to be able to fight in the same exact method that he fought Chavez Jr. against Mayweather. It's not going to happen. Mayweather's a much more defensive. He's a better counterpuncher. He uses a jab, unlike Chavez Jr. And if you watch the sport, you'll realize that Martinez, in the fights that it looks like he struggled, it's against people with good, sound, fundamental boxing skills. People like Macklin and Barker. That's why he didn't even get him out there until late, and they might just not have had conditioning to go 12 rounds or whatever. But I mean, they were landing good shots. You look at Kelly Pavlik, who's a solid boxer, all-around boxer, solid. He gave him problems early in that fight. So before you guys get all crazy, like, oh, Sergio destroys Floyd, and there's a lot of determining factors. One, will the fight even happen? Two, what weight would it be at? And just a whole bunch of other things. So that's pretty much wraps everything up. Subscribe, comment, hate. You know the routine. Ego. Signing off.